Welcome to the Aligned Entrepreneur Secrets podcast. I am your host, Traci Bermingham, and today we have the privilege of hosting Charles Reed, a seasoned certified public accountant with over 50 years of financial leadership spanning numerous industries, including manufacturing, IT, and logistics. Not just a financial expert, Charles is also a decorated combat veteran from the Vietnam War and a committed community servant with the Rotary Club and Veterans Coalition. I've also found out just a second ago that he is also a professional poker player, which I find absolutely fascinating and wonderful. And he's also an accomplished author with ebooks on business and finance that help guide entrepreneurs and business owners. Join us as we dive into this wealth of knowledge and experience to uncover valuable insights into the world of finance and leadership with Charles Reed. Charles, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Traci, thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful. So tell me, 50 years of experience. Where do you even start? Give me a quick background of you.
Okay, I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa. Graduated from high school early at 16. Worked for a while, then went in the Marine Corps for 4 years, including 2 years overseas. Came back, I was stationed in Kansas City, met and married my wife. She was 10 years older than I was and had 5 children when I married her. I claim insanity, but it worked for us. We were married for 45 years before she passed. After military, I found that my military experience was not valued by business. So I went and got my degrees, my BBA, my MBA, sat for and passed my CPA exam while still in grad school. Went to work for Texas Instruments. Spent 15 years in the corporate world, large companies, small companies, turnaround, startups, wonderful experience. Realized I was never going to get to the top because I didn't have the political skills, unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So if I was going to run a business, and I grew up in a family business, I couldn't work for my father, I was going to have to start my own company. So a third of a century ago, Ruth and I started our own company. Accounting firm with a payroll sideline, grew it about a dozen years ago, sold off the accounting practice to my partner, kept the payroll and continue to grow it. We're a national payroll firm providing payroll and payroll related services to small and medium-sized businesses around the country.
Very good. I love it. And how is how is business today? How is it
Business
going?
is good and growing. We have gotten, we grow every week. We're marketing constantly, obviously, and continuing to grow and prosper and getting bigger all the time. We're bigger, this year and last year than the year before, and so on. We even through COVID, we grew a little bit.
Very good. And what kind of clients do you work with?
Mostly small businesses. Our competition likes to go after the big companies, the 100+ employees, and we go after the 20 and under is our main target. We handle some bigger clients. We handle them up into the multi-hundreds of employees. We're quite capable of doing that, but we target the under 20 because that's 95% of the market, and our competitors can have the other 5%. We don't mind.
Very good. And tell me, and we were talking a little bit about this, the people that are listening to this podcast, a lot of them are looking to scale. They have a handful of team members. I think a lot of those team members are consultants for them and moving into they're kind of at the point in their business where it's advantageous for them to move these people into employees and kind of move in that direction. What advice do you have for these listeners?
Well, misclassification of workers is a huge issue with the IRS and with the states because it determines where the taxes are withheld and paid, and people on payroll are much more likely to pay their taxes than independent consultants and independent contractors. Yep. It's just the way the world works. Yep. So the taxing authorities really want everybody on payroll. And the changes just recently in independent contractor rules have made that very, very clear that the Biden administration really would prefer that everybody be an employee. So it's not a choice of whether your people, your workers are independent contractors or employees. That's not their choice. That's not your choice. There's a whole body of law that determines that. Now, yes, there's some things you can do to structure the relationship that it can be one or the other. But once that relationship is structured, the law determines whether they're an employee or not. And misclassification can be extraordinarily expensive, and you will get audited. Your state unemployment department will come out at some point in time and go through all of your 1099ers and all of your accounts payable and look for people who should be employees. And if they should be, and you're not paying them as an employee and withholding taxes, there will be penalties and interest that can literally put you out of business.
Okay, interesting. So where do they go to find these classifications to see if
they're not familiar with them, they need to,
how to do that?
well, I have a number of videos on my YouTube channel, GetPayroll on YouTube, that go through what's an independent contractor and what's an employee and who's subject to overtime and who's not subject to overtime. A number of educational videos out there. So that's the first place. If your listeners want, if they will go to thepayrollbook.com and enter the discount code podcast, we'll ship them a copy of my most current book, the Payroll book, and that goes into a fair amount of detail on what's an independent contractor and what's an employee and the various types of employees and so on, and the exceptions and overtime and all those rules. And they can get a free copy of the book by entering the discount code podcast at thepayrollbook.com.
Making a note right now, I'm going to add both that discount link with the code along with the YouTube link. I'll add that to the show notes. So anybody listening, those links will be there for them.
Excellent.
Okay, very good.
And that's no charge. No shipping, no handling. As long as supplies last, we'll ship a free copy.
Wonderful. That's great. Thank you. Okay, and so we got that under control. So now talk to me about so they now know that let's say that they need to move these people into employee and they need services. What are their next steps? Contact
Well,
you.
next step is to call us, of course, but they need, it's not worthwhile to do payroll in-house if you have less than 500 employees. It just doesn't pay for itself because the complexity of payroll rises as the number of employees rise, obviously. So, but the taxes, the filings, the states, remote work, all these things make it much more difficult. It's a very changing environment between the states and the IRS. Every time Congress meets, they want to change the tax laws, and that changes payroll and employment taxes. So even before I started in the business, I always outsourced payroll because it made no sense to learn how to do it in-house. You don't know what you don't know. That's one of the simplest things to outsource and to delegate because it's complex and it's complicated, and it only costs a pittance to have some professional do it that has the tools, the experience, the knowledge. And one of our unique selling propositions is compliance. Not only am I a CPA, I'm a U.S. tax court practitioner. I have a U.S. tax court case I'm getting ready to file right now on an employment tax problem because the IRS won't do what they're supposed to do. And the way to stop that is to file a court case. So I became a U.S. tax court practitioner so I could do that for my clients instead of telling them to go hire a tax attorney and pay a $5,000 retainer to file a $60 petition. So as an entrepreneur, you don't know what you don't know. And payroll is one of those things that's so simple to outsource. There's a lot of things that should be outsourced. You know, I don't mow my own lawn. I don't fix my roof. I don't sew my own clothes. I outsource all that. Well, payroll is one of those things a business person could outsource.
I love it. And I am all about delegation. And I loved it just when you said this is the easy delegation. Right. And so I love it because you're so right. It's um as business owners, we have enough on our plates in order to try to keep up with tax and law. And those are the things that if you screw it up, it's a major problem and it's a major ouch and just hassle and all of the things. So having an expert to actually be on your team to take care of all of it in the right way is everything.
Absolutely. 40% of small businesses get penalized every year by the IRS.
Mhm.
So if you weren't penalized last year or the year before, you can figure out it happening this year.
Yep.
You need somebody that can take care of those for you, because the favorite analogy I use is when I grew up, Pele was the world's best soccer player. Wonderful athlete, incredible soccer player. But if you put him in a New York Yankees uniform at second base, he's lost.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the game, doesn't know the rules, doesn't know the plays, pick up the ball with your hands. He's totally lost. Still a great athlete. So if you take a business person, a doctor, a lawyer, a manufacturer, a painter, a baker, whatever, an Indian chief, a prophet. I had a prophet as a client. They're great at what they do. They satisfy their clients. They make money. But now you say, okay, handle the IRS. They're Pele at second base. They
Yeah.
have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So they're either going to have to learn it all, or they're going to have to rely on an expert. And that's where we come in.
Yeah. Very good. And I'm the same. It's the same for me with systems, right? And creating those back ends. Like
Yes.
so many people, you get into business because you're passionate about that thing, right? About health or wealth management or relationships or, whatever that may be, and helping people
Payroll.
and making an impact on the world. Payroll, right? Like you're passionate about that. And the back end of the business a lot of times holds people back because they're trying to do it themselves. And it's just, number one, it's not a passion. They're not actually interested in it. But two, they're not like both of us respectively, me systems, you payroll, taxes, all the things. Like we've literally studied this for decades. We've done this for decades. So this is our passion, right? So it's kind of like match the passions up, and then you're able to grow and scale your business.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so talk to me now. I want to go into the back end of GetPayroll a little bit and talk to me about, one of the things that you said that I love is that you have consistently, which is one of probably my favorite words ever, consistency, but consistently grown over the years, even during COVID, when everybody else, I can't say everybody else, many were struggling. What do you attribute to that? And so kind of twofold to this question is, what do you contribute to that consistent growth over time? I'm going to stop there and let you answer, and then I'll keep going.
Okay. One of the things we want to do is provide perfect service. We want a perfect payroll, timely, every time. Okay. That requires consistency and requires systems. 20 some odd years ago, we had problems. We were hiring people and things weren't getting done properly. We had way too many mistakes. I picked up a book on checklists, and this was about the time Six Sigma was a big deal. And I looked at the checkbook list, and it had to do with hospitals and simple checklists and so on, and how it cut down on surgical errors and so on, and saved lives. Fascinating book. And I said, hey, that combined with Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited, which I give out to clients all the time, I buy it by the dozen,
Yeah.
said, I need to install systems. So I sat down and designed systems for payroll because I'd been doing it. Now I had other people doing it. So I sat down and devised checklists. And the checklist took the payroll from start to finish and made it happen the way as if a CPA did it. So every payroll was done as if I did it personally with my expertise. There were checkpoints and there were things that people signed off on. And I told all my staff at that point, you know, mistakes will happen. I understand that. But if you ever sign off on that you've done something on a checklist and you haven't done it, you're fired. Don't lie to me. Don't, you can screw up, you can not do it right, but if you sign off on it, you did it. Okay, period, new paragraph, end of letter. We also developed a procedure manual to go with the checklist. So if you get that and you have a problem, you go to the manual, there's the problems. They're all laid out. We've done them all. And we add to that manual constantly. It's quite large now, but literally you could take that manual, know nothing about payroll, and sit down and do a perfect payroll. It might take you 3 days the first time, but you could do it perfectly and deliver a perfect product to the client. Well, the first one will take 3 or 4 days. The second one will take a few hours. And in time, you'll be doing them as quickly as anybody else. But by doing that, and anytime a new problem comes up, we revise the manual to address that problem. So we can take a new employee, give them the manual, give them a computer, and we do a little more than that. I mean, we walk them through and they follow somebody else and so on. But literally with the manual and the computer, you could do the payroll. You don't need any other tools. That manual, of course, has taken many years to develop, and it gets revised on a constant basis. Every time, we're revising it literally weekly. So, and the laws change, so we have to revise it every time the law changes.
Right.
But that allows us to deliver a perfect product every time. And that's what our clients want. I mean, if you want to upset your employees, screw with the payroll. Okay.
Right. No kidding. Right.
Well, if you underpay them, they'll really get upset. If you overpay them, they won't say a
Right.
word.
They won't say anything. Sure.
But my clients would then be upset because they're paying money they don't need to.
Right.
So we have to deliver a perfect product, and it has to be timely, because no employee wants to hear, oh, well, paychecks will be here in a couple of days. Yeah, right.
Right.
Your
Right.
employees won't be. So
Right.
our level of customer service has to be incredibly high because of what we do and the area that we deal in. So a system to make that happen is an absolute necessity.
I love it. You're speaking my love language right now. So you've got what I love, and what I'm hearing from you is that you have the systems created, and it's a living document, it's a living system, right? Like
Yes.
it's constant motion, constant revision. You're always updating it as you learn new things, as things change, all of that. It's brilliant.
Well, I've studied other things about how to do this, and it makes all the sense in the world, and it works for us. Within weeks, our error rate just dropped way down, and we really reach a Six Sigma error level on our payrolls. We just don't make mistakes. I mean, things happen. We get bad data. Things get corrupted. Things happen. So we're not as perfect as we'd like to be. We'd like to be 100%, but we're pretty damn close. I won't tell prospective clients we never make a mistake. If we screw up, we'll fix it. I promise that. But we're as close to it as we can make it, and we work at it literally all the time, making it happen.
And I would assume. Oh yeah, go ahead.
The other thing that does is, if our employees, we don't have turnover to speak of. We haven't hired anybody we haven't lost anybody in over 5 years, because they know what's expected of them, and they know how to do it, and they know that their input is valuable. If there are problems, if there are exceptions, we want to know it, and we want to hear it from them so we can update the system. Our employees, our team members are critical in maintaining that manual and that system at the highest level.
So great. And yes, and I would even take that further, because having the systems and the structures, the meticulousness that you have in your business, it's like this rollover effect, right? I bet you that your clients stay with you forever because
Yes,
your employees are happy. They're probably a pleasure to work with. Your error rate, like you said, right? Like you deliver a quality service. And I bet you that your referral rate is super high because they've had such great experiences with you. Then they just then tell everybody else about it also.
pretty much.
Yeah. So that's like it's this cool, like and I would assume probably that kind of on that note as well, like if the error rate is going down, then also like the employees, you don't need, like it's almost easy to get the job done and get it done well versus the fire drills and the dropped balls and all of those things that you're spending so much time and effort to clean up, that if you don't have that anymore, it's just it's kind of on autopilot, so to speak.
Absolutely. Fighting fires is very expensive and very, very time consuming. If you don't have fires to fight, you can concentrate on getting the work done, and
Scaling
we
and
don't work a lot.
growing.
We don't work a lot of overtime. I years ago I worked a lot of time trying to get things done and fight fires and so on. And then we're I know it's bragging, but we're a pretty well-oiled machine, and it works pretty well.
That's great. I love to hear it. Makes my nerd heart happy. Very good.
Me too.
Yeah, Charles, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to, I'd love for you to tell them again where they can get the book and where they can find you. And is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, we're available on the web at Get Payroll. Our videos are on YouTube at Get Payroll on YouTube. There's a lot of educational ones, and there's some fun ones. The Halloween one, where the Army of the Dead is the IRS agents rising from the graves to go after the homeowner that wants a trick instead of a treat, is fun, in Star Wars and a number of others. But so there's a lot of fun there. But we're on the web at getpayroll.com, so they can find us. And the book is available at thepayrollbook.com. The title of it is The Payroll Book. It's a guide for small businesses and startups. And if your listeners will go there and enter the discount code podcast, we will ship them free of charge, no shipping, no handling, a copy of the book as long as supplies last. And if they find themselves still flummoxed after they're in the book, my phone number is in the book as well.
Wonderful. I love it. Very good. Thank you so much, Charles. It was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, Traci.